You are now tuned in to Go Time Dolphins with Charlie Touche and Kadeem Simmons, the Miami Dolphins podcast that's for the fans and by the fans.
Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's show time. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Don't waste no time.
Fourth time lucky. The Miami Dolphins pick up their first win of the season. A somewhat nail-biting finish, 27-21 against the East Rutherford Paper Planes, or I guess as they're most commonly known as the New York Jets. Some changes to Go Time Dolphins. Everyone knows about the fantasy football breakout with Charlie Touche and Story. I guess this is the debut of myself and 5 Yards Lee new show, which hasn't got an official name yet, but everything will be revealed very, very shortly. But as I mentioned, 5 Yard Lee, how are you?
Very well. Much better after a win, even if it is in the middle of the night.
Before we talk about the actual game, I'm working in the office Tuesday today being today. Do you know what? I'm going to go to sleep, wake up, and, I should be happy. And Miami Micah kind of does this new thing where he growls. So he growled and woke me up, and I was like, okay, I now need to check the score. So I checked the score, and it was 24-13 with like 12 minutes left of the game. I was like, okay, do you know what? I'm going to go back to sleep because 12 minutes could last, ages and all good. But I couldn't go back to sleep, Lee. And it went 27-13. I was like, okay, cool. Done. Game done. Then it went 27-19. I was like, okay, cool, fair enough. They scored a touchdown. I'm still in bed, by the way. Not watching. I'm still in bed. 27-19. Brilliant. 2-point conversion. 27-21. I was like, don't do this again. I was like, don't do this again. So I've got up, gone to the TV. I was like, do not Tennessee this. Do not Tennessee this. Lee, what was your thoughts when the Paper Planes got the 2-point conversion to make it a 1-score game and we're going for the onside kick?
I actually messaged my co-host Si, and just with the words, I'm scared. Because the way things have gone, you can see. And to be honest, I don't even know if it was the onside kick. I think it was more the final play of the game, knowing that the ball is going to get thrown around, something crazy is going to happen. You've already watched Justin Fields make a play on 4th down where, to be honest, Dolphins had a good play call, should have had it stopped, and it goes for 37, 40-yard touchdown, whatever it was. I was like, don't do that. But we don't need to be Miami Miracled on our own field by the Jets of all teams.
What did you then think? So, the Dolphins recovered the onside kick, 3 runs, 3 and out. Jake Bailey steps up. Before he punts it, the commentators are like, this has to be catch and kick. Do not get blocked. So what's going through your mind before the punt?
I actually thought they showed a clip on the sideline of Tua talking to the quarterback's coach, and he was signaling like he was going to drop back and just continue to drop back and do that thing where he just tries to waste as much time as possible. Do you know what I mean? I was like, don't do anything stupid. Just kick the ball out of the end zone. Let them take the ball, and we'll just. I mean, it was a great punt, by the way. Checking that thing up at the 1, what was it, down at the 2, I think. But either way, boot it through the end zone. Let's just let defense go out there and do their thing, and try and secure this win. I did think it showed some maturity, because I think Mike McDaniel, with every fiber of his being, would wanted to have thrown the ball on one of those downs and try and end it. And I think if you'd won the games you should have won this year, he's probably doing it.
Yeah.
But I think with the situation, I think they were situationally smart to just, kind of play the percentages.
So shout out to everyone in the comments. We are live over on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter, come join us over on YouTube. Shout out to IMAX. Hey, we're live. It's been a while. Shout out to Tim Carrow. Tim Carrow, who is 4-0 in the Go Time Dolphins like UK/US league. I'm sure that'll be brought up on the Fantasy Football Breakout episode, I think, coming out on Thursday. And shout out to Finspin, the Mad Greek, says greetings. Yeah, it's terrific punt by Jake Bailey, who has come into stick since being in Miami. But yeah, absolutely terrific punt, and I do agree. I believe on one of those downs, Mike McDaniel probably wants to throw it. Like you said, the Jets have no more timeouts. Throw it, convert the first down, game over. But I feel like given the last two interceptions Tua has thrown, being the end of the Bills game, the end of the Patriots game, it's like, if this somehow goes wrong, people are losing jobs. You're much better off, running the ball. If you stumble forward for a first down, great. If you, and also it's clock management, basic clock management. Because even if it's not. I'm sure people are like, listening, going basic clock management, because if it's batted down or whatever, the clock stops. So the Dolphins run the ball 3 times. I think it's like 12 seconds left. Punt it down at the 1, and then they attempt a lateral and it doesn't work. Forward pass, game over. I thought we could try some ups and downs. Ups and downs are always popular. Looking back at the game, like I said, 27-21 victory. Who or what would get your first up of the game?
I think the first one has to be the defense. I think they managed to force the takeaways, and it was a big part early in the game when it was close. I think this game kind of breaks down into a few pieces, and let's call it like before the Tyreek injury versus after the Tyreek injury, because I think things kind of did change significantly there, as you would think they did. But I think early in the game, the defense getting a couple of turnovers made a real difference, because let's be honest, right? The Jets had marched down the field and it was, oh no, here we go again. This is the same as the last 3 weeks. Defense, the Jets kind of got what they wanted. But they found a way to stick with it and make a play and, kind of change things.
Yeah, it's interesting you giving that an up, because I've seen so many people on social media, Dolphin fans, Dolphin content creators, saying the defense played bad. The defense is bad. And that if the Dolphins didn't play the Jets, the game goes differently. The Dolphins probably lose. And I think that's such a understandable Dolphins mentality, which is just take the positives. It might not be all positives. The front seven, this defensive line still can't find a way to get home, and get home often, given who, the names on that line. But prior to the game against the Jets, the Dolphins didn't have a single takeaway. They managed 3, turnovers. So take the positive and, build on it, hopefully.
I mean, I understand, I completely understand the sentiment that the defense still wasn't great, but they did something that they haven't done in 3 weeks, and it led to this team being able to play with a lead, which is something else they haven't really been able to do. So, I think it has to be an up. You're one of the few teams in the NFL without a single takeaway, and what were you, +3 in the takeaway column last night?
Yeah,
don't know. It feels like it warrants mentioning. They deserve credit for it, because all of them were really effort plays. The Jets shot themselves in the foot plenty of times, but the fumbles were all forced by Dolphins players. They didn't just cough the ball up. So I think they do deserve credit for that. And Coach Weaver, we've mentioned in talking that, last year it was if Mike McDaniel gets fired, Coach Weaver has to be the interim head coach. Well, his defense hasn't turned up this year either. Granted, they are underpowered, but also the positions that you would consider to be of strength haven't shown up either. So to get some life out of the defense, so I think it has to be an up based on where we are sitting week 4.
Yeah, as I said, take the positives. I don't understand this need. I was on Dolphins Reddit, and even in our our UK Dolphins WhatsApp group, you would feel that some people are reacting like the Dolphins lost, or it's just the Jets, and it's dude, take the win. It's our first win of the season. Got some winnable games coming up over the next few weeks. Um, I think I've got an obvious up, but it's an up nonetheless. Uh Darren Waller seeing the field alone and then coming away with 2 touchdowns. I think his stat line was something like 3 receptions for 27 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did what he needed to do. That first touchdown, it's 4th down. Tua's put it up where only Darren Waller can get it, and he looked like someone who hasn't been out of football for years. He looked like someone who's been playing regularly. And listen, his usage, his targets, his time on the field might only be in the red zone. But if you have a red zone weapon like Darren Waller, it is, much needed as it showed. And, it's I've seen people kind of like, walking back their takes on him, kind of saying, "Oh, I was wrong to be angry," blah blah. Like, no, you had every right to be angry, given that the Dolphins seemed to put all their eggs in one basket and didn't really upgrade the tight end room outside of him over the offseason. But I'm not going to say that they were right to do that. But for right now, it looks like the the payoff worked. But it's only 1 week, and questions can be asked. Hey, if we had someone better than Julian Hill the last 3 weeks, what might have been?
Yeah, I've got to agree with you though. I'm still giving him an up because, to be honest, until this week, we weren't sure he was even still alive. He hadn't been seen since training camp when he came in. Obviously, partway through training camp, then picked up the injury, which was typical Mike McDaniel, not that bad, and then way worse than you were led to believe. And then it was, oh, well, hang on, why are we not just putting him on IR and using the roster spot? Because if he's going to be out 3 weeks, he's probably out 4. Well, guess what? He just won a game in week 4. And to be honest, it started early. That first, I think it was the 3rd down conversion. The impressive part of it was he was able to get open early in the route across the middle of the field. We know it's a place where Tua loves to move the ball. Has to be an up based on didn't play for 3 weeks. When he played, scored 2 touchdowns, including one where it's a pretty big play really on 4th down, back of the end zone. Has to make it stick, and it's a pretty tough catch. So thought he did a good job too. It was great, and also he beat the highest paid cornerback in the NFL to make that play, off of basically not playing for 2 years. So I don't know. Yeah, absolutely an arrow up. Like excited to see. Hopefully, good news that he's come off not sore after last night. I'm guessing he probably played more than they would have liked.
Yeah. Shout out to Barry Hall. He says, love it. Shout out to Finspin, the Mad Greek. He says, I was wrong about Waller. I predicted 3 big 3rd down conversions and a touchdown. Instead, I only got 2 big 3rd down conversions and 2 touchdowns. Although that extra TD was a big 4th down conversion. Hope you put some money on it. That would be a great bet to come out with. Before we get into our first down, a quick little ad break.
Enjoying the episode so far? Whether you're watching in the comfort of your own home or on the go, Go Time Dolphins is where you want to be for your fix on all things Dolphins. So hit that like button, drop a comment below, and make sure to subscribe to the channel to help us keep growing and reaching more Fins fans around the world.
Lee, what is your first down of a 27-21 victory over an AFC East rival, I guess?
Sorry, say that again. I just completely missed it.
No, it's your first down. Do you have any downs?
Look, the first down is actually really obvious. I don't know why I'm putting so much thought into this. It's losing Tyreek Hill for the rest of the season, isn't it?
I genuinely didn't think you'd say that was a down. Given that conversation earlier on today, I didn't think you were going to say that was a down. I thought I was going to say that's a down, and you'd be like, "Actually, is it that bad?" So
No,
okay, that kind of ruined that, but yeah.
No, I've
Yes.
got I've got the silver lining. I've got how I think this could be in the Dolphins' favor, but at no point is this team going to be better without Tyreek Hill on it. I don't think you subtract Tyreek Hill from many teams in the NFL and say, "Hey, this team is better than they were beforehand." And obviously, it's a terrible thing to see someone get hurt. Like, I hope it's not as bad as it could be. I know he's gone in for surgery. He posted on social earlier, smiling while surrounded by family before going into surgery. So I hope for a speedy recovery for him, because I actually thought the last couple of weeks he's done everything he can to be a leader. He got a lot of stick for what happened at the end of last season, rightfully so. He made those mistakes. He acted in a certain way, but we've seen him the last couple of weeks trying to get this team back on track. We saw it before the game last night, trying to hype this team up, and I think we've seen it with his performances. I mean, he was playing well in the game. I also think you saw afterwards the Dolphins struggled to move the ball as much. And I think it's really easy to say, cool, next man up. You haven't got Tyreek Hill sitting on the bench. Like, you can put someone in who can play well, but you can't put him into the game plan to do what Tyreek Hill can do. He's pretty unique in that way. There's a reason he is paid the way he is. A reason that, teams poop their pants every time they see him on a Sunday, because he's unique. And I think, next week's a different ball game, because
Yeah.
the team will have a week to prepare and the game plan will be based on Tyreek Hill not being there. But when it comes to making that in-game change, I don't think it's as simple as saying, cool, someone else go out there, doesn't matter who it is, go out there and do your best Tyreek Hill impression, because good luck with that.
Yeah, it's I think so. I'll say for those who don't know, a dislocated knee tends to sound a lot better than a torn ACL or some of the more severe ones. But a dislocated knee is probably the worst injury you can get, because it basically combines everything. Like, if I can quickly double check what was said about how severe the injury was. Yeah, dislocating torn multiple ligaments, including his ACL, obviously dislocated knee, and not only does it end the season, gives him a long road ahead for 2026. It's looking like that if he does return next year, it's probably the end of the season. So I guess my question to you is, do we see Tyreek Hill again in a Miami Dolphins uniform?
I don't know. But I still feel like that is way more leaning towards the positive that he will be in a Dolphins jersey than most people. Like, I saw people instantly put in, like, career done.
Yeah.
Dolphins tenure done. All those things, like, that's absolutely cool. It's a way bigger decision than 24 hours. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's under contract this year. They paid money this year. Like, I don't think they're going to do. I did see someone post that you could cut him and save some money. I don't think they're going to do that. I think that feels like a bit of a dick move, and I think for all the things this Dolphins team have done, they generally try to do the players right. I don't think they're going to go that route. And this is one of those decisions where it's down the road from now. I don't think it doesn't happen today. There needs to be way more information as well, because there is extremes, like you mentioned, from severe life altering effects from having this injury of a dislocated knee, to ones that are less severe, and give him a chance to get back on the field. So you obviously take into account age and stuff like that, but I don't know, that feels like a conversation for once more news has come out about the exact procedure, how he's recovering from the procedure. He might just say, cool, I'm done. Like I don't want to go through the kind of rehab in regards to getting football ready. So I think there's a lot of things in the air, and I think within 24 hours is a bit too soon to say anything. it's been surprising to me how many people are willing to trade away Tyreek Hill in the last few weeks. I understand the team are playing bad. I get that. It's also very hard to find a Tyreek Hill or any wide receiver of that standard. I think you saw a lot of people last night with their reaction afterwards where maybe they weren't so willing to just get rid of him. Don't know. It's an interesting one, but yeah, I think it's probably a conversation for a later date rather than right now. I'd like to see him play again, and if he does, I'd like to see him be a Dolphin because he's provided a lot of fun.
Yeah, Finn Spin says when Hill first got to Miami, he said he would plan to retire at 30. He got extra years and went out with a victory and a smile on his face. Bravo. Next. I was saying to Tom from PFF earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if, come the end of the season around March, or whenever it makes the most financial sense, the Dolphins and Tyreek Hill part ways. I felt, Charlie's felt the same as well. The likelihood of Hill being here after trade deadline was pretty slim, especially if the Dolphins continued on that trajectory of losing games basically. That isn't the case. Speak of the devil. Just a video of Tyreek Hill smiling on the way to hospital, posted by Charlie Touche. But yeah, assuming the Dolphins, even if they won, they did win. If they get to around trade deadline and they're under 500 still, playoffs basically, no chance of making it. I wouldn't be surprised, and others felt the same, that he probably would have been traded away. The Chiefs, the most likely destination, and I personally believe next year, 2026, when it financially makes sense, the Dolphins will let him go, having, stood by him throughout this whole thing, probably say to him, hey, if you want to keep using our facilities, you are more than welcome to. And then around, or when he's able to return to the field, he'll go, join a contender, most likely the Chiefs, and I think the Dolphins will be okay with not getting anything back in return. I think there's probably some Dolphin fans who are annoyed he got injured because you lose out on a potential pick. The guy's basically got no value now. Even if he does return to be a Miami Dolphin, who's trading for a 31-year-old, soon to be 32-year-old of a severe injury like that and might not reach the same speed that he did before. So, yeah, listen, I wasn't, and I'm still not the biggest Tyreek Hill fan off the field. The human can't be, in my opinion, can't be separated from the player. I also wouldn't wish this kind of injury upon him because, it's career altering, life altering, be it 31 or 21, it doesn't matter. So, also, this is a great nickname. Finsbin says, it's time for Waddle and the Dread Presidents to Washington. That is Brit. If that isn't someone's fantasy name next year, including your own, and also, what do you prefer, Finsbin or the Mad Greek? I kind of call you both. Before we move on from Tyreek Hill and the down, do you think the Dolphins bring in another receiver to replace him? Or do they kind of go, the Dread Presidents, it's your turn to step up?
I don't know. It's really tricky, because you just got your first win. It depends how you think this team is. If you think this team is worth investing in, then you go get a wide receiver. You get a guy to compete in the room, whether that is someone someone new, see who's available. Like there's all teams are in all sorts of positions right now. You feel like there could be players to be had if you want to go that route. I know people are a big fan of the Washingtons. That's cool. Still an unknown commodity, though. I don't know if you want to go out and get a proven guy to try and supplement it, where in case it goes wrong, you see something different. It'd be interesting to see how Nick Westbrook-Akine steps up and how that role changes. This feels like, do you remember when the Dolphins signed Cedric Wilson in free agency before they traded for Tyreek Hill, and the offense looked like it was going to be a very, very kind of set in a little bit more traditional rather than such a speed offense, maybe.
Yeah.
And then they trade for Tyreek Hill, and Cedric Wilson just completely falls out because there is basically no role now for him. Like you can't really treat him as a wide receiver 3. You kind of change the entire look of the offense. I wonder if this swings things back where you actually see a little bit more Nick Westbrook-Akine, because he's been pretty quiet through the first 3 weeks. Had some good blocks when he's been on the field, just hasn't been on enough. And I wonder if that's a route they go as well. It's a guy we were all pretty excited about when they signed him. A lot of upside as well. So they probably go through this week being a short week, as is, I would think. I would personally still invest in this team, though. I think that my investment would probably be on defense, though. I'd still be looking at some of those corners out there as well. Defense has looked better, but I think there is some very clear upgrades as well.
Yeah, they're definitely on the wide receiver front. I think so much depends on where you are around the trade deadline. I think going into before we cut the roster down to 53. I think one of the hardest positions to work out was the wide receiver room. It was like, there's going to be a name, quote unquote, cut, which we probably didn't see coming. It was Eric Ezekama. I just checked, he's with Jacksonville. Wouldn't be surprised if he somehow makes it back to Miami. Probably too late for Isaiah Ford, who always seems to come back to Miami every single season. But yeah, I think the Dolphins are 1-3. They've got the Panthers next. They could go to 2-3. And if they find momentum, then it's like, hey, you know what? We are going to invest. But I can't imagine they made that investment right now because
it's still going away.
Yeah.
If it was like, had this been a few weeks ago, John Mechie would have been a good fit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that would have been an interesting one. But
I think someone posted it in our group chat. The Dolphins are called AJ Brown. I cannot imagine AJ Brown wanting and willingly coming to a 1-3 Dolphins team from a 4-0 Eagles team. Like, I don't get that. And also, we've said it quite a few times. This sounds and feels like a soft rebuild year for the Dolphins. They're not going to go and bring in or I don't think they are going to bring in a big name player when there's still every chance everyone's gone come the end of the season if they don't make it / win a playoff game this year. So yeah. My down is the continued stinky play of right tackle Larry Bowen. It's like, dude, shout out to Coach Eric Smith. I've been in the podcast once before. I need to get him back on again. He started going through the game film of the game against the Jets, and so often, like, it's not even taken anything brilliant to get past him. The right side of the line wasn't the best. Coach Strange got the start at right guard. Still teething problems with Jonas Avanaya, but it's right tackle is a huge problem, and I don't think we. Oh, do we get Austin Jackson and James Daniels back potentially this week off IR?
I think Austin. Oh no, did Austin Jackson play week 1? He did play week 1, so it'd be next week.
So week 5.
Sorry, the week after, week 5. Sorry, week 6.
Okay, yeah.
They would have been on IR for weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5.
And 5, yeah. Either way, like, listen, offensive line issues across the league. Like, look at the Bengals. Wow, stinks. And they went and got Dalton Wagner as well, and stinks.
I think the thing is, the Dolphins last night, though, they found a way to play knowing what the limitations of the offensive line were. Because Tua's now gone 2 games without being sacked, I think for the first time since like 2022 or something. So they found a way to mitigate it. Now, granted, the Jets have got their own problems. And again, everything is caveated here by this is also the 0-4 Jets.
Yeah.
But somehow found a way to get it done. Also didn't give up a sack last week against the Bills.
Yeah.
Which is a very different opponent. Like, they found a way to get something to work here.
If you're not following Coach Smith, like, highly recommend it. His film breakdown is brilliant.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to his breakdown of Cole Strange. I actually thought, like, I know there was some downs there, but
yeah,
I thought he played kind of solid-ish.
Yeah,
I'd like to see the breakdown. It was hard it's hard to take everything in the middle of the night. Also, the broadcast on Sky last night was an absolute horror show.
Yeah, Sky have their issues. Maybe watch Channel 5 this weekend. We shall see. But yeah, I think for like the first Waller touchdown, Coach Drain gets beaten fairly quickly and easily, but Tua is able to get it out. And there's a few times as well where it's like Tua's pocket presence last night was good, and it kind of had to be because they were getting to him fairly quickly. So yeah, you get. I do believe, and I think Eric Smith might agree with me as well. If you're able to get Austin Jackson and James Daniel back and play into a half decent level, Jonas Havanai goes from offensive lineman number 3, basically, back to offensive lineman number 5. You can start sliding protection his way, all that kind of stuff. And hopefully he will be able to essentially improve. He's probably been worse than people, not as bad as people think. But again, there's teething problems there. And
also, everything's highlighted when you're 0-3.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it is solely offensive line problems that got us to 0-3. So week 1, no one turned up at any position. So I don't know if you can just say, cool, we lost week 1 because the O-line is bad.
I think the interception against the Bills, it's not James Dan. Whoever played, is it Brunskill? Again, Brunskill got beat so quickly to have to get again. I'm not Kurt Warner, Emmanuel Ocho back and forth about that. It's gone. The Dolphins have a win. Do you have any more ups or downs before we head on out of it? And also because it's not Charlie, I will not be doing the outro, and there'll be no overtime. So yeah,
I need to see you try the outro at least once.
No,
I don't think I've ever seen you try the outro.
No, it's for Kadeem Simmons, I'm Charlie Touche. Stay positive. Stay positive, test negative. For Kadeem Simmons, I'm Charlie Touche. Thanks for tuning in this time. Make sure you catch us next time on Go Time. Yeah,
smooth,
but,
real smooth.
Thank you. But yeah, do you have any more ups, any more downs before we head on out of here?
I think I've got another up, and this is gonna trigger people. So maybe as I finish saying it, we'll just leave the show there. I think Mike McDaniel deserves some credit. He deserved a lot of stick for the way things went to start the season. I'm not going to argue it. The last 2 weeks, this team has looked very different. They played the Bills last week, as close as they played the Bills when we thought they were good the last 2 years in Buffalo. That's quite an achievement with what we saw weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they've done. He mentioned before the Bills game, I think it was, that they've made a change to the way the play calling, something around the way the plays were getting into the quarterback. We know now that it's not the play caller, but those plays getting in on time, and this offense looks way better. I know that Charlie and Jay would both say to me right now, yeah, but it shouldn't have taken this long. Absolutely, it shouldn't. How many coaches do you ever see change?
Yeah.
They change when they think their job is on the line, and usually it fails on them. They have found a way to make this better. It needs to continue to get better, but this has allowed them to get in a far better position in regards to getting plays off on time. You saw, I think we had one time out there yesterday where the play clock had run low. That was happening at the beginning of quarters, the beginning of the half. That's not happened in the last 2 weeks. Everything has looked way smoother operationally. And I think, if he has to take the heat when it's bad, as he should as the head coach, then he has to get credit when there is visible improvement.
Yeah, as IMAX pointed out, that is 5-yard lead, not Charlie. And also, I am Kadeem Simmons, not Charlie Touche. Shout out to Silent Writer says, enjoying the show. Make sure to smash the like button and share the channel. Greatly appreciated. No, I agree. Me and Charlie had a massive back and forth on our Bills review / Jets preview, where I was saying he, among others, called for Mike McDaniel to fix his play calling problem or get out because, should have been done years ago, but you need to do it. And I was like, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect forever, but he stood on the podium and said, "I'm going to fix it." And for that week, he fixed it, and he's done it again. And I was saying that, as Tua fans, we wanted Tua to stay healthy for a season, but to stay healthy for a season needs to be one game at a time. So I wasn't, standing on the podium saying Mike McDaniel fixed everything, but I also was saying you can't call for Mike McDaniel after week 2. And again, there's been calls for years now, so it's long overdue. But if ahead of the Bills game, you're saying to Mike McDaniel, fix play calling, and after the Bills game, play calling for that one game at least had been fixed, you then can't turn around and go, well, you have to go because, well, hold on, I literally just done what you told me to do. So, no, I agree. I thought Mike McDaniel called a great game. Ryan Clark on social media said, the Dolphins don't have a play calling issue. And I also think the Dolphins, or the play calling at the very least, allowed Tua to kind of, roll out a bit more. Like the second Darren Waller touchdown, I want to see more of that. Now, obviously, in terms of Tua standing among his peers, he's not one of the best at rolling out and throwing downfield and all that kind of stuff. But I go back years on Go Time Dolphins, and I don't know the exact episodes. I'm not telling you to do this, but I was like, it will make it easier. Like, Tua coming out of college was really good at rolling out and finding someone, and that has to be even someone downfield. It can just be a case of, hey, roll out, dump off. And that touchdown to Waller, yeah, especially in the red zone. Yes, you kind of limit yourself to half the field, but if you've got a good play designer, Mike McDaniel, that's completely fine. Roll out half the field, have some nice concepts, some nice routes, and that's what you get. So, no, I agree. Mike McDaniel called a good game, and hopefully can continue.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it continue. Strangely positive after that. I know, celebrating the win because you've got to celebrate all the wins. They're hard to come by. But yeah, I think there's still some positives to take forward and looking forward to, there's some winnable games coming up on the schedule as well. Some tough defenses, but also some winnable games. That I don't know if you get we're not talking about a playoff team, but you mentioned it earlier. We talked about it being a soft reset. They kind of reset the cap. Look, we know this roster has some issues whilst they're trying to make this transition. This wasn't a year where you came into it thinking Super Bowl. This is not like last year when you came in saying, hey, look, we need to compete. This is more like we're hoping to be, if you're a wildcard team, I think it's probably a successful season because there's glaring holes in the roster, which is going to stop you being a championship team. But that's part of the reset. And if you can fill those holes next year whilst building the rest of the core, maybe there is a plan here.
Yeah, I wanted to mention this. The Mad Greek has said it. The Tua trickery. I think I said to you on one of our many evening phone calls. The Mike McDaniel led Miami Dolphins aren't a physical team, and at their pomp, at their best, they weren't a physical team. They were about the trickery and all that kind of stuff. And yes, it didn't evolve, but watching the Dolphins against the Jets with the behind the back pass and stuff like that, that's Tua at his best. That's Mike McDaniel at his best. And yes, you could turn around and say, well, it's only the Jets, but in week 1 it was only the Colts, and week 2 was only the Patriots, and the Dolphins lost both those games. If the Dolphins, in my opinion, are to be successful under Mike McDaniel, it's going to be more trickery, and I also think it's when it's weird. Tua's at his most comfortable when he's enjoying his football, when he's messing around, and I thought that's what we saw last night. And I don't think it's any surprise that yes, it's only the Jets, but it led to a win.
Got to start somewhere. I actually think that it would have been a much easier win if it's going to sound really stupid, but I think the offense struggled a bit when Tyreek went down. Quite obviously, yeah. I think they had the game under control. Actually, I think once they got the lead there in the first half with some turnovers on defense, that they actually were looking pretty comfortable until they kind of got bogged down a bit, where like I said, you're trying to replace Tyreek Hill, and that leads you to some short drives, and that's what puts you in a situation where it's a one-score game. Like when you woke up and it was pretty safe, if the Dolphins had continued playing the way they were, it felt more comfortable up until that point. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm about to go and record Dolphin UK podcast, so I've got some interesting thoughts on how actually leaning into not being a tough team might be the best route forward for this squad. I think I mentioned it to you, and I might mention it on the last show we did together. The Dolphins suddenly turned up one day, and the media told them they needed to be tough, and the beat writers told them they need to be tough, and podcasters told them they need to be tougher. It's also just not who they are.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you can just wake up one morning and go, "Cool, today I'm tough." Like, that's not how it works. And maybe you need to lean into the finesse side of things. Maybe you just need to find a way to make it work better against those tougher teams. But I think it's such a change is needed to go from being a finesse team to being a more blunt force instrument. I don't know if you can do that in one off season. I think it's too many changes. You'd have to completely gut the roster, and okay, maybe that's what somebody does if and when there's a GM change and a head coaching change. But I think that's when you get it. You don't get, say the finesse guy is coming back and suddenly all of a sudden being blunt force drama. It's not the way this team's built. But we see a little bit more balance on offense with Ollie Gordon and Devon Achane late. We saw Ollie Gordon has some real nice success against the Bills. Last night he had a little bit less success, but it meant you were able to go a little bit more Achane with outside zone runs. Like, that is now a way better situation than what we've had in the past, where you have matching running backs. Having two running backs with slightly different styles kind of is going to help you bridge that gap between finesse and power, I think.
If you loved what 5 Yard Lee just said, make sure you do go check out his podcast. I'm pretty sure you guys already do. We say it enough times it's on there. But yeah, where can people find that podcast, 5 Yard Lee?
So it's the Dolphin UK podcast, and we should have an episode dropping in the morning as well, where we will talk about this game and my hopefully confident prediction for the future of the Dolphins.
You heard it here first. Go hear it. Not live, but you can go hear it also on the Dolphin UK podcast. Over here on Go Time Dolphins this week, we have the fantasy football breakout. That should be dropping on Thursday. I know it's going to be a great episode because Championship Chuck, Charlie Touche, is 0-4 because he lost to Story, it was 2 0-3 teams. Someone's O had to go, same as the Dolphins and the Jets. So fantasy football breakout should be dropping on Thursday. Myself and 5 Yard Lee will be back to preview the Panthers game. What day would that be, 5 Yard Lee?
Friday.
You heard it. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But
maybe
if you're
Friday.
If you're subscribed, then you'll see it drop in your inbox over the next few days. Most likely Friday. And yeah, it's good to talk football with you, 5 Yard Lee, in front of a national and global audience. We will be doing it a lot more over here on Go Time Dolphins. It will have its own name. It will have its own overlay. It's going to be a whole thing. Go Time Dolphins is expanding with new shows on a weekly basis. So I don't have an outro for this show. I'm not going to do Charlie's outro again. I'm just going to say thank you for joining us. Enjoy the win. Hopefully we get another one this weekend, but we'll talk about that in a few days' time. But until then, we shall see you soon. Peace.
Lucy.